Today, we're uncovering 12 ghost legends that still haunt New York. Spirits said to roam the Empire State even now. Number 1. The Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. In the quiet village of Sleepy Hollow, just north of New York City, one legend has terrorized locals for over 2 centuries. The Headless Horseman, made famous by Washington Irving's tale, wasn't born from imagination alone. It was rooted in the very real ghost stories whispered by Dutch settlers. According to legend, during the Revolutionary War, a Hessian soldier lost his head to a cannonball while riding through what is now Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. Ever since, on foggy autumn nights, witnesses claim to see a dark rider thundering down the old country roads, his severed head tucked beneath his arm or held high like a lantern. The most chilling encounters happen near the old Dutch church and its ancient cemetery. Drivers report seeing a headless figure on horseback galloping alongside their cars, keeping perfect pace before vanishing into the mist. Others describe hearing the pounding of hooves on pavement when no horse is in sight, followed by maniacal laughter echoing through the darkness. Even today, locals avoid certain stretches of road after midnight. Some say the horseman is searching for his lost head, while others believe he's collecting new ones. Whether you believe in Washington Irving's tale or the older Dutch folklore that inspired it, one thing remains certain in Sleepy Hollow: the past rides eternal, and some riders never rest. Number 2. The Lady in White of Durand Eastman Park. Along the shores of Lake Ontario in Rochester, a tragic spirit has wandered for nearly a century. Known as the White Lady, she appears as a pale figure in a flowing white dress, eternally searching the parklands and beaches of Durand Eastman Park. The legend tells of a mother whose young daughter vanished without a trace in the 1920s. Night after night, she searched the park calling her child's name, refusing to give up hope. Some say she died of a broken heart. Others claim she simply faded away from grief. But her spirit never stopped looking. Park visitors report seeing her gliding between the trees at dusk, her white dress luminous in the fading light. She approaches joggers and walkers, always asking the same desperate question: "Have you seen my daughter?" Those brave enough to answer say she listens intently before floating away with a mournful wail. The most unsettling encounters happen near the old stone shelter houses. Families having late picnics describe a sudden chill in the air, followed by the sight of a woman in white peering through the windows. Dogs refuse to enter certain areas of the park, whimpering and pulling their owners away from invisible threats. Park rangers have grown accustomed to reports of the White Lady, though they can never offer explanations. Security cameras occasionally capture unexplained white shapes drifting across the footage. Whether she's a grieving mother or simply a story that took on life of its own, the White Lady remains Rochester's most persistent spirit, a reminder that some loves transcend death itself. Number 3. The Montauk Monster. In July 2008, something horrific washed ashore on a Montauk beach that would spark conspiracy theories and nightmares for years to come. The bloated, hairless creature with a bird-like beak and clawed hands looked like nothing anyone had ever seen. Photos spread across the internet, and the Montauk Monster was born. Official explanations called it a decomposed raccoon or dog, but locals weren't convinced. The creature's strange proportions and alien-like features seemed too bizarre for any known animal. Some pointed to the nearby Plum Island Research Facility, whispering about secret government experiments gone wrong. Soon, more sightings followed. Beachcombers reported finding similar creatures washed up along Long Island's coast. Fishermen claimed to see strange shapes moving beneath the waves offshore. The legend grew darker as people began describing encounters with living versions of the creature, pale, hairless beings scrambling across the dunes at night. Teenagers dare each other to walk Montauk's beaches after dark, hoping to catch a glimpse of the monster or its kin. Some return with stories of glowing eyes watching them from the surf, or the sound of something large moving through the beach grass. Others report an overwhelming smell of decay and chemicals that seems to follow them home. While scientists insist the original carcass was just a normal animal in an advanced state of decomposition, the mystery has taken on a life of its own. The Montauk monster represents our modern fears of genetic manipulation, of government secrets, of things that shouldn't exist. And somewhere in the dark waters off Long Island, some believe it's still out there, waiting to surface again. Number 4. The Amityville Horror House. At 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, Long Island, stands a house that has become synonymous with terror. In November 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family in their beds. Just over a year later, the Lutz family moved in, only to flee 28 days later, claiming the house was possessed by malevolent spirits. Their story became legendary. Bleeding walls, strange odors, swarms of flies in winter, and demonic voices commanding them to get out. The house seemed to radiate evil, with rooms that turned ice cold without warning and doors that slammed shut on their own. The Lutz children spoke of an invisible friend named Jody, a demonic pig with glowing red eyes. Even after the Lutzes fled, the hauntings reportedly continued. Subsequent owners have described similar phenomena: unexplained noises, mysterious cold spots, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Neighbors whisper about lights turning on and off in empty rooms, and some claim to see shadowy figures moving past the windows. Paranormal investigators have flocked to the house for decades, many leaving with disturbing evidence. Electronic equipment malfunctions, batteries drain instantly, and sensitive individuals report feeling physically ill the moment they step inside. Some say the house feeds off negative energy, growing stronger with each tragedy. Today, the house has been renovated and its address changed to discourage curiosity seekers, but its dark reputation endures. Whether you believe in the supernatural or think it's all psychological suggestion, the Amityville Horror House remains a monument to evil, a place where the boundaries between reality and nightmare seem dangerously thin. Number 5. The White Lady of Rochester. Beyond the shores of Lake Ontario, Rochester harbors another spectral woman dressed in white. But this spirit's story runs much deeper into the city's history. Known simply as the White Lady, she has been witnessed in multiple locations throughout Rochester for over 150 years, from Riverside Cemetery to the banks of the Genesee River. Unlike her counterpart at Durand Eastman Park, this White Lady seems connected to the city's industrial past. Some say she was a mill worker who died in an accident along the Genesee River in the 1800s. Others believe she was the victim of a crime, her body discovered floating in the rushing waters. Her white dress is said to billow around her as she walks the riverbank, forever searching for something or someone lost to the current. Cemetery workers at Riverside have reported seeing her kneeling beside graves on foggy nights, her pale hands placing white flowers on forgotten headstones. She appears to favor the older sections, particularly graves of those who died young or under tragic circumstances. When approached, she looks up with eyes full of sorrow before dissolving into the mist. The most chilling encounters happen during Rochester's harsh winters. Motorists driving along the river report seeing a woman in a thin white dress walking barefoot through the snow, seemingly unaffected by the bitter cold. Some have stopped to offer help, only to watch her vanish the moment they open their car doors. Local historians have tried to identify the White Lady, searching through old records and newspaper archives. But like so many spirits, her true identity remains a mystery. She has become part of Rochester's folklore, a guardian of the forgotten, a reminder that some stories are too tragic to stay buried. Number 6. The Red Hook Devil. In the industrial waterfront district of Red Hook, Brooklyn, where shipping containers tower like metal monuments and fog rolls in from the harbor, workers speak in hushed tones about something that shouldn't exist. They call it the Red Hook Devil, a creature that stalks the docks when the sun goes down. Descriptions vary, but the details are consistently terrifying. Witnesses describe a tall, gaunt figure with glowing red eyes and skin that seems to absorb light. Some say it has horns, others mention wings that stretch impossibly wide. Its movements are wrong, too fluid, too fast, as if it doesn't quite belong in our world. The legend began in the early 1900s, when longshoremen started reporting attacks near the warehouses. Men would be found unconscious with strange marks on their bodies and no memory of what happened. Others simply vanished, their disappearances blamed on accidents or the dangerous nature of dock work. But the survivors whispered about something inhuman prowling the shadows. Modern encounters follow a similar pattern. Security guards patrol the area in pairs, refusing to work alone after midnight. Truck drivers making late deliveries report seeing a tall figure watching them from between the shipping containers, only to find nothing when they investigate. Some describe an overwhelming smell of sulfur and rotting fish that seems to herald the creature's presence. The Red Hook Devil has become part of Brooklyn folklore, a boogeyman that embodies the darkness lurking in the borough's industrial corners. Whether it's a demon, an urban legend, or something else entirely, dock workers continue to carry extra flashlights and avoid certain areas after dark. In Red Hook, they know that not everything that comes in with the tide is meant for this world. Number 7. The Ghost Ship of the Hudson River. Along the misty waters of the Hudson River, between the towering cliffs of the Palisades and the distant lights of Manhattan, sailors and passengers have reported sightings of a vessel that shouldn't exist. Known as the Ghost Ship of the Hudson, this phantom craft glides silently through the water, its ancient sails full of wind that no one else can feel. The legend dates back to the days of Dutch colonization, when Henry Hudson himself sailed these waters. Some say the ghost ship is Hudson's own vessel, the Half Moon, doomed to sail forever after Hudson's mysterious disappearance in Hudson Bay. Others believe it's one of the many ships lost to the river's treacherous currents and hidden rocks over the centuries. Witnesses describe a tall ship with billowing white sails that seems to glow with an inner light. It appears suddenly out of the fog, moving against the current with impossible speed. Modern boat captains report having to swerve to avoid collision, only to watch the ship pass through their vessel like smoke. The experience leaves them shaken, questioning what they saw. The ghost ship is most often spotted near Storm King Mountain and the Tappan Zee, areas where the river runs deep and the history runs deeper. Passengers on dinner cruises sometimes point excitedly at the phantom vessel, snapping photos that show only empty water. Ferry operators have grown used to reports of the mysterious ship, though they can never offer explanations. Some believe the ghost ship appears as a warning, manifesting before storms or accidents on the river. Others say it's simply the Hudson's way of remembering its past, a reminder that these waters have carried dreams and disasters for over 400 years. Whether harbinger or memory, the ghost ship of the Hudson continues its eternal voyage through New York's most storied waterway. Number 8. The Rolling Heads of Fort Niagara, at the mouth of the Niagara River, where Lake Ontario meets one of America's most turbulent waterways, stands Fort Niagara, a stone fortress that has witnessed centuries of warfare, betrayal, and death. But among its most disturbing legends are the tales of the Rolling Heads. the spirits of executed soldiers whose torment continues long after their deaths. During the French and Indian War, the fort saw numerous executions for desertion, treason, and mutiny. Soldiers were beheaded on the parade ground, their heads displayed on pikes as a warning to others. But according to local legend, some of these condemned men didn't find peace in death. Visitors and staff report seeing severed heads rolling across the courtyard at night, their eyes still burning with rage and injustice. The phenomenon is most often reported near the old guardhouse and execution site. Security guards patrolling the grounds describe hearing the sound of something heavy rolling across stone, followed by glimpses of pale, ghostly spheres moving through the shadows. Some claim to see faces in these orbs, twisted expressions of men who died with curses on their lips. Tour guides at the fort have grown accustomed to visitors asking about the rolling heads, though they rarely witness the phenomenon themselves during daylight hours. It's after closing time, when the fort falls silent, that the real activity begins. Maintenance workers report tools moving on their own and the sound of marching feet in empty corridors, as if the executed soldiers are still drilling for battles they'll never fight. The legend has taken on new dimensions over the years. Some say the rolling heads appear before tragic events on the Great Lakes, serving as harbingers of doom. Others believe they're simply trapped spirits, doomed to reenact their final moments until justice is served. At Fort Niagara, the stones remember everything, and some memories are too violent to rest. Number 9. Cropsey of Staten Island. In the shadows of Staten Island's abandoned buildings and forgotten corners lurks a figure from urban legend that became terrifyingly real. Known as Cropsey, this boogeyman was whispered about in schoolyards and summer camps, a deranged man who lived in the ruins of old institutions, snatching children who wandered too far from safety. For decades, Cropsey was just a story parents told to keep their kids close to home. He was said to live in the ruins of the Willowbrook State School, a former institution for developmentally disabled children that closed amid scandal and abuse allegations. With his hook for a hand and his taste for young victims, Cropsey embodied every parent's worst nightmare. The legend took on horrifying new dimensions in the 1970s and 80s, when children actually began disappearing from Staten Island communities. The case of Jennifer Schweiger, a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome who vanished in 1987, would eventually lead police to Andre Rand, a former janitor at Willowbrook, who matched the Cropsey description almost perfectly. Rand was convicted of kidnapping, though Jennifer's body was found in a shallow grave near the old institution. The discovery sent shockwaves through Staten Island communities and gave credence to the Cropsey legend. Suddenly, the boogeyman wasn't just a story, he was real, and he had been hunting in their neighborhoods. Today, the ruins of Willowbrook remain a source of fear and fascination. Urban explorers who venture into the abandoned buildings report strange sounds, the feeling of being watched, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Some claim to see shadowy figures moving through the overgrown grounds, while others hear the echo of children's voices in the empty halls. Whether the spirit of Cropsey still haunts Staten Island, or whether the legend has simply become too powerful to die, parents still warn their children about wandering alone. In a place where folklore became reality, the line between myth and monster remains dangerously thin. Number 10. The Ghosts of New Amsterdam. Beneath the gleaming skyscrapers of Manhattan's financial district lie the cobblestone memories of New Amsterdam, the Dutch settlement that would become New York City. In the narrow streets where Wall Street now thrums with commerce, the spirits of the city's earliest settlers are said to still walk, carrying the weight of America's colonial past. The ghosts appear in period dress, men in broad-brimmed hats and knee-length coats, women in long skirts and white caps. They're most often seen near the old Dutch Reformed church site and around Stone Street, one of the few remaining cobblestone roads from the original settlement. Workers in the area report glimpses of these figures during early morning hours, before the business district comes alive with modern activity. The most famous of these spirits is believed to be Peter Stuyvesant himself, the last Dutch Director General of New Amsterdam. Witnesses describe a stern man with a wooden leg, still patrolling the streets he once governed. He appears near his old estate grounds, now occupied by St. Mark's Church in the Bowery, tapping his wooden leg against the pavement as he surveys the changes time has wrought. Construction workers digging in the financial district sometimes uncover artifacts from the Dutch period, pottery shards, old coins, and human remains from forgotten burial grounds. These discoveries often coincide with increased paranormal activity. Office workers in nearby buildings report elevators stopping on their own, old Dutch words whispered in empty stairwells, and the smell of pipe tobacco in non-smoking areas. The spirits of New Amsterdam seem bewildered by the city their settlement became. They drift through Wall Streets, canyons like lost tourists from another time, searching for familiar landmarks in a world transformed beyond recognition. In Manhattan's oldest quarter, the past and present exist side by side, separated only by centuries and the thin veil between life and death. Number 11. The Burnt Man of the Bronx. In the abandoned buildings and empty lots of the South Bronx, where urban decay has left its deepest scars, residents speak fearfully of a figure known as the Burnt Man. This charred apparition emerges from the shadows of fire-damaged structures, his flesh eternally consuming in flames that give off no heat, his eyes burning with rage and pain. The legend began during the 1970s, when the South Bronx was plagued by arson and abandonment. Entire city blocks were consumed by fire, leaving behind skeletal remains of apartment buildings and dreams. Among the victims was a man, his identity lost to history, who perished in one of these blazes, trapped in a burning tenement with no escape. But death didn't end his suffering. Residents of the area began reporting sightings of a figure wreathed in flames, walking through the ruins. Unlike the ghosts of folklore, the burnt man appeared solid, real, until observers got close enough to see the fire consuming his clothes and skin without reducing him to ash. His face, when visible through the flames, showed an expression of eternal agony. The burnt man is said to appear in abandoned buildings scheduled for demolition or renovation, as if protecting the ruins from further change. Construction workers refuse to work alone in certain structures, reporting the smell of smoke and burning flesh even in buildings untouched by fire for decades. Some describe hearing screams echoing through empty corridors, while others feel an intense heat radiating from rooms that should be cold. Urban explorers who venture into the Bronx's forgotten spaces tell stories of narrow escapes from the burnt man's territory. They describe rooms that suddenly fill with smoke, the sound of footsteps on broken glass, and the terrifying sight of a burning figure standing in doorways, blocking their exit. Whether he's a guardian of the ruins or simply a soul too traumatized to find peace, the burnt man remains the South Bronx's most feared spirit, a reminder of a time when fire was both destroyer and creator of urban legends. Number 12. The Manhattan Well Murder Ghost. In the heart of Soho, where trendy boutiques and art galleries now occupy converted warehouses, lies the site of one of New York's most infamous murders and its most persistent ghost. In 1800, a young woman named Gulielma Sands was found floating in the Manhattan Well, her death sparking a sensational trial that would make legal history and create a spirit that refuses to rest. Gulielma, known as Elma, was engaged to a carpenter named Levi Weeks. On the night of December 22, 1799, she left her boarding house to meet him for what was supposed to be their wedding ceremony. Instead, her lifeless body was discovered in the well 11 days later. Weeks was arrested and tried for murder in a case that captivated the young nation. The trial featured a legal dream team for the defense: Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, and future Supreme Court Justice Brockholst Livingston. Despite overwhelming public opinion of his guilt, Weeks was acquitted, the first murder trial in American history to end in acquittal. But Elma's spirit, it seems, disagreed with the jury's verdict. Reports of Elma's ghost began almost immediately after her death. Residents near the well described seeing a young woman in a white dress wandering the area at night, often wringing water from her hair and clothes. She appeared to be searching for something, or someone, her face etched with confusion and betrayal. As the neighborhood changed over the centuries, Elma adapted to her new surroundings. Shop owners in Soho report unexplained cold spots, the sound of dripping water in dry buildings, and the feeling of someone tugging at their clothes. Fashion models doing photo shoots in the area sometimes complain of sudden chills and the sensation of invisible hands adjusting their garments. The Manhattan Well itself was filled in long ago, but its approximate location is marked by a small plaque on Spring Street. Visitors who know the story sometimes report seeing a pale woman standing near the marker, always alone, always waiting. In a city that never sleeps, Gulielma Sanz remains eternally awake, seeking the justice that eluded her in life and haunting the ground where her story began and ended. If you enjoyed this journey through New York's most haunting legends, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.